Hello, this is Karen, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the Post Journal of March 30th, 2026, on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Okay, our first article is titled City Proposes Delay in Firefighter Lawsuit. Jamestown officials are asking State Supreme Court Justice Stephen Cass to delay the first oral arguments in a lawsuit brought by the union representing city firefighters. The union is opposing the city's request. Firefighters and members of the Jamestown Professional Firefighters Association, Local 137, are suing the city of Jamestown over consistently leaving management positions such as battalion chief, captain, and lieutenant unfilled with permanent appointments and instead filling them with temporary ones, even while there is not an emergency situation. Arguments in the case had been scheduled for April 6th in State Supreme Court, with briefs due by Tuesday, March 31st. Elliot Raimondo, City Corporation Counsel, asked for the deadline for legal briefs to be submitted be pushed back to April 27th, with oral arguments to be pushed back to May 4th. Raimondo is requesting the delay because material witnesses will be unavailable for late March and early April due to the school schedule of spring breaks, while co-counsel Marilyn Fior-Lehman is also unavailable until April 20th due to scheduling conflicts. While some may say that justice delayed is justice denied, I would say that there will be no prejudice of a slight delay to the plaintiffs in this matter, Raimondo wrote in his letter to Cass. Specifically, the parties have a companion case covering the same issues as argued in this case in the form of arbitration. The city fully intends to abide by any determination made by the arbitrator or settlement that may be reached between the parties on this issue. Charles D'Angelo, the attorney representing city firefighters, filed his own letter with Cass's office opposing the proposed delay, though D'Angelo proposed the court issue a cease and desist order to stop the city from assigning out-of-title work during the adjournment. In addition to asking the court to require the city to appoint and assign captains, lieutenants, and battalion chiefs, D'Angelo is asking for an award of back pay and benefits, court costs, and attorney's fees, allowing the city to what constitutes another month of continued violations of law is untenable, D'Angelo wrote. The court should not allow this adjournment to happen. As we know from the early unfortunate death of Buffalo firefighter Jason Amo, using acting officers can lead to injuries and even the death of a firefighter. Allowing the city to continue to clearly violate civil service law and the New York State Constitution is untenable. Finally, the adjournment is way too long. We need to move this case forward to decision immediately to avoid any irreparable loss to a Jamestown firefighter and his or her family. Okay, our next article is entitled Life's Journey. Sharonis sings his way back home. Call him a weekend warrior and Jim Sharonis will agree with you 100%. By day he works in the financial field, but by night he sings, writes songs, and sings some more. On the weekends, and to borrow a phrase from the Moody Blues, he's just a singer in a rock and roll band. He loves music because it makes him happy, period. There is no other reason. Talk with him about music, see a smile forming on his face, and share the passion of his emotions. Listen to him sing and hear the passion in his voice. Jim's wife said music is an avenue to let out his frustrations. And that's the best way to get it, frustration, out is through music, Jim recalled. Music is in Jim's heart, and he hopes it will continue to reside there for the rest of his life. If I could do one thing for the rest of my life, it would be to sing and to practice singing and to exercise so I can sing better, and then after that, just to sing some more, Jim said. That's what I wish I could do all the time. Having sung for other people but not singing for himself gave Jim the notion to release his own album of original songs, Back Home. Rewind, pun intended, and Jim will tell you that in his younger years in Warren, Pennsylvania, he was trying to find himself. But in the course of trying to find himself, music found him. He had graduated from Warren Area High School and figured out that being in college wasn't for him at that time. So he pivoted and enlisted into the Army. When I served in the U.S. Army, I had a band, Lazarus, that won the U.S. Army Battle of the Bands while playing all original music, Sharonis admitted on his website. My bandmates and I were slated to be removed from our regular military jobs and to instead work exclusively as full-time musicians touring Army bases in the U.S. and in the European theater. So now, press the fast-forward button. I've been a singer, songwriter, and performer with various local and regional projects, and I currently perform and record with Blue Morning, a foreigner tribute band, Jim said. But as much as I love doing what I'm doing, I regret never having done a project for myself until now. I tapped into the inspiration I experienced during my military service when writing and performing heartfelt songs that blend blues, rock, and power ballads. When writing songs, Jim said he can tell a story while doing his favorite thing, singing, but it needs a melody. And so I'm listening to this music to see how it fits. I'll like a song or dismiss it based on the melody. Like the guitars could be great, the drums could be great, and everything could be great, but if the singer isn't captivating me with a really cool melody and a really cool hook, I'm not interested, Jim said. Back Home is a personal tribute to his life and his journey. The tracks capture the essence of what was started at the beginning and what new music was created along the way, Jim said. For more information on Back Home, visit jamessharonis.com. Okay, our next story is titled New Cherry Creek Dairy Farm Proposed. A new dairy farm is being proposed in Cherry Creek that could produce tens of thousands of gallons of milk daily and employ dozens of people. During the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency meeting, board members reviewed an application from Cherry Creek Dairy, LLC. The business is looking to purchase 45 acres of land at 7782 Miles Strip Road. On the property, they are looking to construct a new greenfield dairy farm with a 120-stall rotary milking parlor. There will be 6 105,000 square foot free stall barns with 150 stalls in each. The farm will house 7,000 mature dairy cattle. Milk production is estimated to be over 500,000 pounds per day. A manure separation facility will be constructed from anaerobic digesters to produce renewable natural gas. Also to be constructed are feed storage facilities capable of holding over 100,000 tons of feed yearly. The facility will also offer housing for 60 to 70 full-time employees. Rosemary Strandberg with the county IGA said Cherry Creek Dairy is seeking incentives that would incorporate property tax abatements, sales tax exemption, mortgage recording tax abatement, and an industrial revenue bond. Officials say the dairy farm will create 60 new jobs and retain 6 current positions. Connor O'Gorman with Cherry Creek Dairy was in attendance virtually. He noted there would be a number of ancillary jobs created as well. They're working with Alstrom Schaefer Electric Corps of Jamestown, Heidelberg Materials Concrete and Asphalt of Dunkirk JMI, as well as local hardware stores, dairy supply companies, and more. Strandberg noted a total cost of the project has not yet been determined. The County IGA Board of Directors approved a due diligence resolution which allows the IGA to examine possible payments in lieu of taxes, agreements, and other financial assistance. A public hearing will be held before a final vote will take place, which has not yet been scheduled. The due diligence resolution was unanimously approved. Okay, next we have young playwrights bringing youth visions to life. Area students' work will once again come to life through the Young Playwrights Project. For the past 12 years, the program has brought together teams of volunteers to help bring children's imaginative writings to life. Through a series of readings and performances, the team helps to bring a deeper love and immersion to the art of theater and plays for young students. With the program having already begun for this season, coordinators are now preparing as the program enters into the early portions of the second out of 3 phases. Arts Education Director Suzanne Fassett-Wright stated that though the summer season is typically where much of the Chautauqua Institution's offerings are, much of the work from Chautauqua Arts Education comes about during this program that operates throughout the school year. Wright stated that the group has been in Phase 1, which has included sending volunteers around to various elementary schools in the county. These schools have included Lincoln Elementary, Ring Elementary, Bush Elementary, Fletcher Elementary, Love Elementary, Clymer Elementary, Panama Elementary, Chautauqua Lake Elementary, and the E2CCB Youth Educational Center. These folks are all better in teaching artists with other art theater programs, said Wright. We bring them in to work with our 3rd and 4th graders to teach them how to write plays. Then we leave behind materials for their teachers to integrate into their classroom to support their English language arts learning and theater learning skills. The kids write plays, and we had over 470 plays submitted this year from students. Phase 2, which started on March 26, will send the volunteers back into the schools with a slightly different intention than before, according to Wright. Wright stated that these people will actually be reading the plays back to the groups of children, allowing the kids to hear the productions that they worked so hard on. This will be even further expanded upon later in June when Phase 3 of the program will officially begin. This is when the group will select 10 of the plays written by students to become full produced performances. Each participating student will travel to the institution where these 10 plays are to be performed for all to see. It really is an honor and a privilege to get to work with teachers, students, administrators, schools, personnel across the county, said Wright. But you know what? Very important conversations are with our kids and hearing what they need, what they want, and what's important to them. So we're convening these important conversations through Chautauqua Arts Education, and we learn as much from our kids as I think they learn from us. Wright stated that this program now dates back to 2015, with the idea having initially been brought to Deborah Sonia Moore early in her tenure. Moore had already been searching for a way to give students further access to fine arts learning, while also supporting the existing arts learning throughout the county, according to Wright. Wright stated that once Georgia Court, an active citizen, brought the idea forth, the institution would partner with the Florida Studio Theater to begin the project and connect with the schools. Though the influence of the FST continues to be present in the program today, Wright noted that the program is now entirely run by the institutions. They often say that music gives voice to what language can't, and so we get to see that come to life with students, said Wright. As we move forward, we are always happy to have conversations with schools who say, we think this would be a really good connection with our school. Let's see how we can make it happen, and then we can have the conversations to see what we can do. And you are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Next we have City Rotary Club supports Coldest Night of the Year initiative. Members of the Rotary Club of Jamestown participated in the Coldest Night of the Year event in downtown Jamestown on Saturday, February 28th. The family-friendly winter walk is held each year to raise awareness around the issue of homelessness and is also intended to raise money for local organizations serving people experiencing homelessness, hunger, and hardship. This year's event in Jamestown benefited the YWCA of Jamestown's Empower Her Housing initiative, which is designed to meet women and families. Through Legacy House and First House, women and children who are homeless or at risk of homelessness are provided safe, stable, and affordable transitional housing. Participants are also supported in identifying their capabilities, building essential life skills, and moving toward healthy, independent living. The local Jamestown Rotary Club had more than 30 people supporting the team of walkers, with more than $1,250 raised for the YWCA program, which reportedly saw an estimated $25,000 total raised for the event. And next article is Jamestown Daughters of American Revolution honor Paul Ferdinand. The Jamestown chapter of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution met recently at the Chop House on Main to commemorate President's Day with other DAR chapters and the Chautauqua County chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution. The Jamestown chapter also had the opportunity to award Paul Ferdinand of the SAR with the DAR America 250 Commendation Medal and Certificate in recognition of Ferdinand's contributions to preserving the legacy of the American Revolution, honoring patriots, and educating the community regarding the Revolutionary War. Ferdinand is a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel who enjoys researching local patriots of the American Revolution. He has been instrumental in having patriot burial markers placed at numerous Chautauqua County cemeteries where Revolutionary War soldiers are buried. He is also the current Vice President of the Chautauqua County chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution. For more information about the Daughters of the American Revolution, email Regent Tammy Lochner at Jamestown nns/dar@gmail.com. Next is Harmony Senior Citizens to meet April 2nd at Panama Methodist Church. The Harmony Senior Citizens will meet at noon Thursday, April 2nd at the Panama Methodist Church for a tureen dinner. Attendees are asked to bring a dish to pass and their own table service. All area seniors are invited and encouraged to attend. Hosts for the luncheon include Ellen Cafaro, Lori Russell, and Carol Parnell. Tony Campbell, program chairperson, stated the speaker will be Laura LaMonica from the Panama Bee Farm and Honey Company. The group met recently with 31 members present. President June Whipple welcomed everyone and introduced Speaker Pam Brown, Panama Village historian, as well as historian for Harmony and North Harmony. Brown gave the history of the Civilian Conservation Corps, a work relief program that ran from 1933 to 1942 for unemployed unmarried men between the ages of 18 and 25. The CCC was part of President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal. One of these camps was constructed in the village of Panama. Brown presented the slideshow of the camp with many pictures taken by a relative who participated in the camp. After the presentation, Whipple introduced Bonnie Froman, co-chaplain, who read If Jesus Came to Your House, offered the dinner prayer, and led the salute to the flag. As the group did not meet for the months of January or February, members celebrating birthdays are as follows. For January, Bonnie Froman, Don Garfield, Betty Johnson. For February, Cora Delahoy, Maynard Wagner, Sally Hagg, Cindy McIntyre, and Eileen Rensel. Members celebrating in March were Ellen Cafaro, Chuck Ellis, Richard Harper, Wendy Raynor, Mary Keeney, and Jane Stahl. Donnie and Gail Keller celebrated an anniversary in March. Members sang happy birthday to all celebrating. Cindy, chairperson, reported that she had sent get well or thinking of you cards to Eloise Smith, Dottie Enlow, Elaine Jensen, Bob Potter, and Linda Rothra. As Mary Kenny will be unable to prepare the coffee at the meetings due to an injury, Ray Wood has agreed to take over her duties. Karen Hurlbert sold tickets for the 50-50 raffle, with the drawing going to Marty LaFrido. Lori Russell, vice president, reported the chances to win the quilt donated by a member will be sold at the April and May meetings, and the drawing to be held in May. Mary Lou Garfield gave the treasurer's report. Dottie Enlow, trip chairperson, said she is working on a trip with more information to follow at the next meeting. Ellen Cafaro, United Senior Council representative, reported the council is sponsoring a driver's workshop to be held April 23rd at the Chautauqua Center in Jamestown. For more information or to register for the workshop, call Ellen at 716-763-1012. She reminded members the annual trivia contest is scheduled for May 14th at 1 p.m. at the North Harmony Senior Citizens Center. Whipple said the revision of the bylaws has been completed and copies will be presented for vote at the next meeting. Okay, next we have resolution for 2nd Street parcels transfer to JURA up for council approval. The Department of Development is looking to transfer ownership from the city to the Jamestown Urban Renewal Agency for 3 specific parcels on East 2nd Street. A resolution approving this transfer is up for approval by the City Council at tonight's voting session. The resolution notes that the 3 parcels, 8, 10, and 12 East 2nd Street, make up the 3-story commercial structure and adjacent vacant lot. The structure sits next to the Fenton Building on East 2nd Street, home to the Chop House on Main. According to the agenda for tonight's voting session, intervention is required to keep the deterioration of the structure from progressing. Allowing JURA to take ownership of the property streamlines the request for proposals process significantly and allows for the parcels to be responsibly purchased and redeveloped in alignment with city planning documents and revitalization efforts across downtown. The resolution to approve the transfer will allow JURA to manage the RFP process for purchase and redevelopment of the parcels, resulting in ownership by a private party or developer, which will reduce the city's responsibility and liability in regard to the parcels and put the property back on the tax rolls. Also on the agenda for tonight is a public hearing and approval for the local law approving the return of the police chief position. For a number of years, the police chief position was encompassed under the Director of Public Safety, along with the fire chief position. Following the retirements of Fire Chief Matthew Kuhn and Police Chief Timothy Jackson, the city is looking to officially reinstate both positions and do away with the Director of Public Safety title as it used to be a few years ago. The fire chief position has already been reinstated following approval by council a few months ago. The public hearing for the local law is scheduled for 6:45 p.m. in the City Council chambers, 2nd floor of the City Hall building. The voting session is set to begin after that in the same room at 7:30 p.m. Emergency Family Consult Room, a space that provides a private, quiet space where families can receive difficult news, grieve, and ask questions with dignity after the loss of a loved one. This dedicated space helps reduce emotional distress and improve family satisfaction during one of the most difficult moments they will experience. The GE Evolution ultrasound system, which strengthens the hospital's women's health services by delivering clearer, more advanced imaging that supports earlier and more confident diagnosis for the mothers and babies. This technology enhances quality of care, improves the patient experience, and helps clinicians provide the highest standard of prenatal and gynecologic care for the community. Kristen Melville, Executive Director of the WCA Foundation, expressed her gratitude to the Foundation's board, community donors, and the individuals and families who have established endowments in support of the hospital. The generosity, foresight, and commitment of donors have been instrumental in anticipating the evolving healthcare needs of the community and ensuring UPMC Chautauqua will continue to have the resources necessary to serve patients well into the future, Melville said. To create an endowment to honor the memory of a loved one, contact Melville at melvillek@upmc.edu. The WCA Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Next, we have Cassadaga Valley Host Educational Professional Development Summit. Cassadaga Valley teachers recently took part in an educational professional development summit for those who work with and teach the area's youngest students. Described as the brainchild of the school's pre-kindergarten teaching team by Ann Morrison, District Director of Pupil Personnel Services, the idea behind the summit was that there was not really any such thing in existence for pre-kindergarten teachers in the area. The summit involved a provided breakfast and lunch. Holly Hannon, principal of Temple Elementary School, as a keynote speaker, along with unconference sessions that involved presentations and gave teachers and staff a chance for roundtable discussions on issues important to them. Participants that responded and signed up included educators across the region, administrators, occupational therapists, counselors, aides, and members of the parent network in the community. Morrison said there were a variety of teachers and those who provide services for preschool education. This summit is something that Morrison said Cassadaga Valley wanted to do because of them having a really strong team with what they have to offer for pre-K at the school, and they wanted a chance to share and collaborate with others in the region. Morrison said it was a type of collaboration that schools do not normally get to experience. That's the power of collaboration, Morrison said. We've had people reach out beforehand that were really excited. About 150 participants from outside the district signed up, along with our own staff. When you have an idea that might seem crazy, you should keep going forward with it. You never know where it may go. This is the first time the school has hosted an event such as this, and the hope is to continue to hold it every year. We hope to be able to collaborate with even more districts and providers next year and continue to watch for more opportunities for our teachers and staff to grow. Next, we have explaining why some medications aren't covered anymore. Focus on senior issues. Question: I went to fill my medications and I seem to be having problems. One medication was no longer covered, another one needed permission first, and then I received a letter saying I have to switch to another medication for a third drug I took last year. Why is this happening? They were all covered before. And the answer: well, this is a common occurrence for the first 3 months of the year with Medicare Part D. Remember that each year the plans change not only the premium they charge, but also the medications they cover, their formulary, and how they cover those medications. The formulary is a list of medications they cover and how they cover those same medications. There are medications removed from the plan's formulary, and there are 3 primary restrictions that happen with the medications that are covered in the formulary. The 3 things that happen to you illustrate 3 of these 4 situations, so I will explain. First, the notification that the medication is no longer covered is the most severe situation with formula changes. Your insurance company is required to tell you in advance they are not going to be covering a medication you take. This letter was mailed to you early in the last quarter of 2025. The problem is we all get lots of mail and don't understand all of it. Somehow we throw out by mistake without reading, some we don't understand, and some we read and don't remember to act upon. If you are notified that a medication you take is no longer covered, you must speak with your physician to ask them what to do about that. Your physician may contact the plan to ask for an exception, waiver, so you can continue to get coverage for your medication. Your physician could also look into alternate medications that may be available for you to take. An alternate medication would simply require a new prescription. This may be the easiest solution if you or your doctor are both comfortable with that change of medication. Second, the notice that permission is needed first is called a prior authorization requirement. This is generally taken care of by the pharmacy, and you may not even know it happens. When the pharmacist puts your medication refill into the computer, it will come up prior approval required. This plan now requires that your prescribing physician contact the insurance company to review this medication. The pharmacist generally contacts the prescribing physician and notifies them of the request for more information by the insurance company. Hopefully, this can be resolved between the physician and the insurance company efficiently enough that you don't run out of medicine. In past years, this prior authorization, PA, was usually a very simple step. This year, I am finding that in some situations, this PA is used a yes but no for the insurance company. It allows them to keep the medication on the formulary, but in practice there are very few occasions where individuals like yourself are actually allowed to get the medication. Probably the most common this year are medication like Ozempic and Mounjaro, but we have run into many others. The third situation is when a medication has gone into the category of step therapy medication. This situation comes about when a medication is technically approved, but only for 30 days. After you fill that first 30-day supply, your insurance company sends a letter requesting you to consider switching to alternate medications. This letter usually gives you a list of alternate medications they prefer. This list should be reviewed with your physician quickly. Your physician can then contact the insurance company to let them know of your decision regarding the change. Sometimes the insurance company will continue to cover the same medication you're on, but sometimes a change in medication is necessary. We are finding that approval for this step therapy limited medication is seldom approved by the insurance company. Again, I use the phrase yes but no. The insurance company keeps the medication on the formulary list, but it rarely allows individuals to stay on that medication. The last scenario I wanted to mention is quantity limit, which is usually the least restrictive. Quantity limit is, as it says, the company limits the amount of that type of medication you can get. Sometimes it is limited to a 30-day supply. Sometimes it is a limit in how many doses you can get for a period of time. For instance, you can get 30 tablets for 30 days, but if you take 2 per day, that's not enough for you. So you would need to have your physician ask for an exception to get a larger number of pills. Sometimes you can work around this by going to a higher dosage, but that's not always the case. I believe this time of the year is the hardest on the pharmacists. They attempt to fill your medications the way they always do, and it seems the new plans, sometimes even the same plans, have changed all the rules. The pharmacists can't warn you in advance. Then they try hard to do their best, but the plans make changes. The doctors and patients need to be informed of the changes, and it all takes a lot of time. The pharmacists try hard to keep everyone happy and informed of what is happening, but that first yearly refill of your medication is when those changes are flushed out. Don't wait until the last minute to refill a medication. If any of these hassles happen, you may not have the medication you need tomorrow. So refill your medication 4 to 7 days in advance at the local pharmacy or 3 weeks in advance if using mail order. This extra time will give you and your pharmacy the time you need to correct any problems and still have your medication on time. Okay, next in news, 4 charged after meth found in city apartment. 4 Jamestown residents are facing drug charges following an investigation at 114 West 7th Street Lower Apartment. On Thursday at 4:36 p.m., narcotics investigators from the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office and Jamestown Police Department executed a search warrant at the address, with Jamestown Police SWAT making entrance. Present in the residence was James D. Eastham, 30, Amber L. Eaton, 27, Tracy L. Brown, 51, and Randy J. Wright Jr., 42. As a result of the search of the residence, the investigators seized 206.9 grams of methamphetamine, scales, and packaging used for the sale and distribution of narcotics, and $4,094. Eastham and Eaton were both charged with second-degree criminal possession of a controlled substance in the second degree, criminally using drug paraphernalia. Brown was charged with third-degree criminal possession of a controlled substance, second-degree criminally using drug paraphernalia, and second-degree criminal contempt. Wright was charged with third-degree criminal possession of a controlled substance, second-degree criminally using drug paraphernalia, and first-degree criminal contempt. All were transported to the Jamestown Police Department and arraigned on charges in city court. Authorities continue to ask members of the community to call and report suspicious or narcotics-related activity within their neighborhoods. For the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office Narcotics Investigators Tip Line, call either 800-344-8702 or 716-664-2420. And for the Jamestown Police Department Tip Line, call 716-483-8477. And you are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Okay, next we have County Nation holds No King rallies. Across Chautauqua County, hundreds took part in No King rallies. Events were held in Westfield, Jamestown, Chautauqua Institution, and Barker Common in Fredonia throughout Saturday. Across the nation, large crowds protested against the war in Iran and President Donald Trump's actions in No Kings rallies across the U.S. and in Europe. Minnesota took center stage with thousands of people standing shoulder to shoulder to celebrate resistance to Trump's aggressive immigration enforcement. Minnesota's flagship event on the Capitol lawn in St. Paul drew Bruce Springsteen as its headliner. He and other speakers praised the state's people for taking to the streets over the winter in opposition to a surge of U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement agents. Springsteen performed Streets of Minneapolis, the song he wrote in response to the fatal shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by federal agents. Springsteen lamented Good and Preddy's deaths, but said the state's pushback against ICE gave the rest of the country hope. Your strength and your commitment told us that this was still America, he said, and this reactionary nightmare and these invasions of American cities will not stand. People rallied from New York City, with almost 8.5 million residents in a solidly blue state, to Driggs, a town of fewer than 2,000 people in eastern Idaho, a state Trump carried with 66% of the vote in 2024. U.S. organizers have estimated that the first two rounds of No Kings rallies drew more than 5 million people in June and 7 million in October. They expect 9 million participants Saturday, though it was not clear whether those expectations were met. Organizers said more than 3,100 events, 500 more than in October, were registered in all 50 states. Protests were mostly peaceful, but some arrests were reported. In Los Angeles, authorities deployed tear gas near a federal detention center downtown. One man had a leaf blower attempting to clear the air. The Los Angeles Police Department later arrested people for failing to disperse. Earlier in the day, a band was playing and people were dancing to Spanish language music. The Denver Police Department said on the social platform X that it declared an unlawful assembly and deployed smoke canisters after a small group of protesters blocked a road and did not leave as asked. Some threw the canisters back at the officers, police said. At least 8 people were arrested, as was a 9th person later, on who police said was throwing objects. GOP officials dismissive of protests. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson called them the product of leftist funding networks with little real public support. The only people who care about these Trump derangement therapy sessions are the reporters who are paid to cover them, Jackson said in a statement. The National Republican Congressional Committee was also sharply critical. These hate America rallies are where the far left's most violent, deranged fanatics get a microphone, spokesperson Maureen O'Toole said. Trump's immigration enforcement push, particularly in Minnesota, was just one item on a long list of grievances that also included the war in Iran and the rollback of transgender rights. Speakers at the Minnesota rally decried billionaires' economic power. In Washington, hundreds marched past the Lincoln Memorial and into the National Mall, holding signs that read, "Put down the crown, clown, and regime begins at home." Bill Jarko was there from Seattle, joined by 6 people dressed as insects, wearing tactical vests that said "Lice spoofing ICE," as part of what he called a mock and awe tour. "What we provide is mockery to the king," Jarko said. "It's about taking authoritarianism and making fun of it, which they hate." About 40,000 people marched in San Diego, police said. In New York, Donna Lieberman, executive director of the New York Civil Liberties Union, said during a news conference that Trump and his supporters want people to be afraid to protest. "They want us to be afraid that there's nothing we can do to stop them," she said. "But you know what? They're dead wrong, dead wrong." In Topeka, Kansas, protesters dressed up as an inflatable frog costume and a baby version of Trump. Wendy Wyatt showed up with a Cats Against Trump sign. "Many things upset her about the administration," she said, "but the rallies are very hopeful to me." And here's some brief notices. North Lake Sewer District Board to meet April 6th. The North Chautauqua Lake Sewer District Board will meet at 4:30 p.m. Monday, April 6th at the Carlson Center, Lakeside Park, Mayville. The meeting is open to the public. Kennedy Library to host book sale in April. The Kennedy Free Library will host a book sale April 23rd from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., April 24th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and April 25th from 9 a.m. to noon. There will be books, DVDs, CDs, and more. The library will offer hot dogs and a bake sale while patrons shop for books. For more information, call 716-267-4265. East Randolph UMC to host spring tea. The East Randolph Methodist Church in Randolph will be holding a spring tea event at the church fellowship hall on Sunday, April 26th at 3 p.m. Ladies and girls of all ages are welcome to attend this community-wide gathering for an afternoon of tea, French refreshments, and fellowship. For reservations, call Louise Freeman at 716-485-3536 or Heidi Bozer at 814-496-3045. SWCS class of 1966 to hold reunion in July. The Southwestern Central High School class of 1966 will be holding its 60th anniversary reunion Wednesday, July 15th at Shawbucks. Prior to the evening event, classmates will tour the Hunt Road facility to see improvements and upgrades made to the campus since 1966. Contact Mike Kuhn at mccoon2@bellsouth.net for more information. And you've been listening to a reading of articles and features from recent issues of the Jamestown Post Journal. Your reader has been Karen, and thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a good day and take care of yourself. Okay, bye-bye.